our first keynote after lunch. My name is Matthew Higgins. I'm excited to start this session for you all. So I'll be introducing our keynote speaker for this session, which is Dr. Jason Siegel. I'm gonna try to keep it relatively brief. I recognize many of you, you're from Claremont, you're from the field, so you understand Dr. Siegel's kind of magnitude and presence within our field and his exceptional contributions to it. When I thought about when I was assigned to introduce him, I needed to think about some things that I wanted to say. And so I looked at his CV. It's too long. He has a flight today, and if I were to share all of the accomplishments and contributions he's made to our field, he'd miss his flight. But I do want to acknowledge that, you know, on his bio page for Claremont, it has not updated his most recent accomplishments. So he is the recipient of the 2026 Western Psychology Association Outstanding Teaching Award. And I was part of the email thread that was announcing this, and I remember seeing it thinking like, yeah, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. But then I had to pause for a moment and think like, why does that make sense to me? I've actually never taken a class with him. So I started thinking, I did have one interaction with him in my very first semester here at Claremont, where you're just kind of doing that thing of, you know, meeting with professors, trying to find, maybe this will be my advisor, maybe this will be my committee. And after that one meeting that I had with him, I came away thinking, that is a human being that absolutely loves research, loves our field, and has an unrelenting enthusiasm for it. And that's why it made sense to me that he won that teaching award. And I know you all are going to feel that today in his presentation about positive emotion infusions.
Excellent, thank you. Wow, what a great intro. I should have recorded it for the teenagers at home. Mine, not random kids in my house. Okay, thank you for coming. I love going directly after lunch. There is no better time in the day than that. And see, the organizer's leaving now. I see what's happening. Okay, so today, I mean, there's nothing better for a positive psych conference than to talk about depression. So we're going to talk a lot about it. But the first 15 minutes are going to be unhappy. I'm telling you now, we're talking depression. We're talking about how bad it is. Don't lose hope. We're going to talk about how positive emotions can be infused in people with depression. Actually, quite flippant easily. We do it all the time. Sometimes it leads to increased help-seeking behavior. Sometimes it doesn't. Do we know why? No. That is why we are here today. My plan is to share with you this program of research I've been doing with a great group of graduate students here, and then just go, someone please help us and tell us what the heck is going on, because we genuinely don't know. We know if we figure out, we will get more people with depression seeking help. We will save lives. But to this day, we have yet to figure out why certain emotions are phenomenal and certain emotions just fall short. So here comes the depressing part. Oh, we can't go backwards when that's the first slide. Okay, so depression, I know, right after lunch and surfing. 280 million people worldwide, 2.2 million American adults experience it every year. Among adolescents, 20%. 1 in 5 adolescents experience depression. Among those 18 to 25, you're looking at nearly 20%. This is a problem. People are not flourishing, they are not flowing, it's a real word, if they are experiencing depression. So what the heck is depression? It's not what Oprah says about it necessarily. We still know who Oprah is, right? Yeah, okay. I'm looking at the older people, not the young ones in the room. And I'll figure this out by the time I turn 50. Okay, hold on. I mean, that happened 2 years ago. Okay, anyway. So, depression is not just sadness. It is not just, hey, you're down, let me lift you up. Beck's great contribution is he realized it's an information processing disorder. That is at the core of depression. And when you're depressed, you process everything through a depressogenic schema. It is your filter. It is your glasses. And just as if your glasses had Vaseline on them and you couldn't take them off, no matter how hard you tried, you are not seeing clearly. When the depressogenic schema is active, no matter how much you try, you are not getting rid of it. People with depression process things with an extensive negative bias. Negative information sticks to the head like flypaper and will not go away. It is not that people with depression don't process the positive. They do. They've studied it. But the positive is relatively fleeting, and the negative stuff gets trapped and gets ruminated on. Telling someone with depression to let it go, you might as well tell someone with 2 broken legs to run a marathon. It is not within their capabilities. And then what happens is all this negativity leads the person to have a negative view of themselves, their past, and their future. So yes, people with depression are sad and depressed. That is not the illness. The cognitive processing is the illness, and that causes all of those negative feelings. This is essential because if your goal is to push this back a little bit, you gotta understand it. So put differently, but in the end I'll get this right. People with depression have an increased vigilance for negative self-referent material. Now this is gonna be critical as we move on. Someone with depression could very oddly give really good advice. The depressogenic schema is not all powerful. In a lot of ways, I like to look at it as the big boss at the end of a video game. Really hard to defeat, but once you figure out that the big boss blinks their left eye before they punch you, you start to figure out how to beat it. Depression is very similar, and the key is that when the information is not self-relevant, the schema pushes away a little bit. And we're going to talk about this, how it is really key. The other thing is people with depression cannot disconnect from those negative thoughts. It is really, really difficult to do. So how does this play in? When you advertise or you try to communicate with people with depression, you don't want to say, I know you might think help seeking is hard, but they're never hearing anything after the but. So you agree it's hard, so therefore I shouldn't do it. The negative stuff is going nowhere. And then the schema gives an additional gift in the form of cognitive errors. Black and white thinking. There are no shades of gray. You go back to being 12 years old and you're thinking. Everything's either all good or all bad, and if you're depressed, chances are it's all bad. You personalize. Someone's having a bad day that you haven't seen all day, and you feel guilty that it's your fault. Is there any rational reason it's your fault? No. Doesn't matter if you're depressed. You magnify the negative, you minimize the positive, and you overgeneralize everything. You don't just fail one test, and by fail I mean get an 89, but then I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this. How am I going to be a good parent? How am I going to be a good grandparent? And you will ruminate yourself into a downward spiral. Give me 3 more days, I'll get this. There we go. So, what is the negative impact of all this? Certainly you can imagine it's pretty miserable to be living this. What's the impact? There's a heap. Work-related stress, you're not handling it as well as you used to. No way. Career dissatisfaction, well, if everything's negative, your career is also negative. Your social and family functioning, out the window. You're not the life of the party. People don't necessarily want to be hanging out with you as much, no matter how you try. And there's an unfortunate thing called the depressive spiral. You start thinking no one wants to hang out with you, so you stop calling everyone. Then even if they call you, you say, well, they just feel bad for me. They don't want to hang out with me. And then over time, they actually stop calling. See, you were right in the first place. That is the depressive spiral. Then we've got cardiovascular disease, neurological deficits, and worst off, you have no idea how proud I am, I pulled that off, suicide. It's an unfortunate outcome, but it's what we have to worry about. 60% of people who complete suicide have a mood disorder like depression. What is really frightening? Half the people who commit suicide, complete suicide, do so without telling a single person of their plans. No one. So our goal in our research stream, we don't treat people, we're not clinicians. Our goal is to get people with depression to reach out to one person. Why? Because when they reach out to a person who's rational or a mental health professional, that person can grab the baton and start running with it. That person has the rational thought and perseverance to keep going. And part of this whole thing and why it's such an unfortunate thing is depression's treatable. Over 90% of people who seek help get, the symptoms go down pretty darn quickly. There's meds. If you don't want meds, there's 1,000 other ways to do it, 1,000 different therapies. We have treatment. It is absolutely treatable, but about, at best, 60% seek help. And this is SAMHSA. This is the largest number out there. Other numbers have 30% seeking help or 40% seeking help. At best, 4 in 10 people with depression do not seek help. Is this bad? Yeah. Without help seeking, they're not going to get better, most likely. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse and worse and worse, and the longer you go without getting treated, the more likely you are to commit suicide. Okay, simple. Let's increase help seeking. What can go wrong? Okay, yay. Yeah, it's a little hard. There's been a lot of efforts that have worked, but there have been other efforts that people think work. They worked on the general population, and they're like, yeah, this is great. And then Goldie and Fisher, they were one of the people who did this. They said, you know what? I'm going to pull out the depressed people, because they're kind of the targets of your campaign, and when they pull them out, you don't have an effect. You will be amazed at the number of studies that test depression help-seeking ads on people without depression. It's not unique to depression. I worked in tobacco a couple of decades ago. They were great at testing adolescent smoking ads on middle-aged people. The middle-aged people love those ads. What could have possibly went wrong? So there's a few reasons that it's so difficult. First, depression is a negative bias. The negative bias isn't just towards some things in life, it's towards everything. Guess what? Help seeking. Help seeking gets the same bias treatment that everything else gets. So what do we find? You're depressed, outcome expectations that can help go down. The amount of effort it takes goes down. Attitudes go down. Oh, this is just foolish people who don't know anything. We did this with medical residents. We took people who went through med school, matched with a residency, were starting their residency. We found the exact same association. The more depressed these medical professionals were, the less they thought help-seeking would matter. I'm getting no love from this thing. Okay. So yes, as I mentioned, medical residents, down the road. Our research, Levy's research. They don't believe their bosses want them to do it. They think they have more resources. They're more likely to think it's going to hurt their career. So you see the dilemma? The more depressed people get, the less likely they are to seek help. What happens with everything else? Toothache, backache, drug problems? The worse you get, the more likely you are to seek help. Not depression. It's the anomaly. More depressed they get, the more negative it looks, the less optimistic they are about recovery, and the harder it's going to go. So this means that we have a harder hill to climb. Let's make it worse. You know those messages that you would send to people with depression? They are also processed through that same filter. So not only do you have an audience that is more negative about help seeking, they're going to remember those cognitive errors, the negative bias. It doesn't take a vacation for help-seeking messages. It doesn't take a vacation. It makes it worse, and we've published extensively on this. We have published for the past 10 years, begging people, stop testing these messages on people without depression. Begging them. We've done an entire special issue of Stigma and Health, saying, please, this is not so difficult. Resistance, reactance, misinterpretation. This is what you are looking at. For the data lovers in the room, like thou here, let's look at some data. All the way on the right up here is what happened when people got no information. So you would hope that if they got information about help seeking, their attitudes will go up. The black line are people with depression or at risk for depression. You see how it kind of looks like if they got a help-seeking ad, they were less likely to have positive attitudes? It's exactly what happened. The ad caused harm. Is this a freak occurrence? Nope. One of our studies. And these are not bad ads. It's not like, oh, anyone could create a bad ad. You are not to blame for the cause of your depression. It is treatable. This is attribution theory to its core. It's exactly what Bernie Weiner would say to do in the ad if he was here. Low BDI, no problems. Look at high BDI. The dashed line are the people who got the message. What happened? If you were not depressed, nothing happened. If you were depressed, that message increased your self-stigma. That message telling you you are not to blame for your depression increased your self-stigma. And this happens a lot. Van Eyck and Van Gorp found it. Luke 28 found it. Me and Amanda 2016 found it. This is not a freak occurrence. It's actually not hard to find. 2019, I did a study with a couple of graduate students here. Some of you may recognize the amazing Dale Berger. If this works, it'll be amazing. Woohoo!
Everyone has friends. There's online friends. Friends to go out with on a Saturday night. Friends to hang out with and do nothing. Friends who show up on moving day. And then there are the friends who'll be there if someone is dealing with a mental illness. Are you one of those friends?
People without depression love this ad. 75% of those with depression love this ad. Can anyone guess, can anyone put on a negative schema cap and think about how this ad could backfire? Yes?
You're reminding someone in a mental state of I'm alone that they feel like they're alone, that they feel like they don't have a friend they can talk to.
Dead on target. I did not pay her to be here. It made me sad. It brought tears to my eyes. I'm not in a good place in my life. I have no friends local to me, and I've lived in this place for 2 years. Remember black and white thinking? I will never make friends here. I need friends. I wish I have friends. I used to have friends. Well, maybe they didn't get the point of the ad. Yeah, no. Rather than inspiring me to be a better friend, they got it to someone with mental illness. It made me feel incredibly isolated. It made me feel as though I'd likely have no one to turn to if times got hard. 1 in 4 people with depression put forth a response like this. Then we did another study, really trying to figure out how we get around this. And I spent a lot of time doing a lot of stuff in the positive domain, and G. Nakamura is always saying, try something positive. I said, okay. What if we ask people with depression to write about a time they were loved? What if we prime? What if we change their mindset and get them focused on the loving parts? Okay, this might work. And we need a comparison group. Okay, and we did things to put them in a good place. We said, think of a time your family was there for you or your family was not there for you. There should be huge differences, right? There are, if you're not depressed. Non-depressed people, 0. This was a perceived family functioning pre-test, post-test. So, non-depressed, exactly as you think. Write about love, my family's better. Write about a time they hurt you or betrayed you. Not better. Basic priming evidence. Look at the depressed people. Their perceived family functioning was identical, whether they wrote about a time they were betrayed or a time they were loved. Identical. There was another ad with Glenn Close. This is an ad where people were walking together in the subway. And like Glenn Close up there had a shirt sister, her sister had bipolar, a bunch of people had shirts like this. A bunch of people were walking. What happens to people with depression? You probably could figure it out by now. I was thinking how lucky all those people were to have someone standing by them. Seeing all those people with others made me feel more alone than I already do, and wishing I had someone standing by me. Yeah. It wouldn't be too hard to test these ads. Why they're not doing them is absolutely beyond me. But don't worry. Stuart said if he was going to have me talk today, I had to be uplifting. I could not leave you guys like depressed people are said, have a nice day. And that's why he stopped in. He's going to come back later, I hope. Okay. So, We're researchers. When we try to persuade people with depression, why I love it, is that we're taking all this clinical lit. The clinical people have been understanding the brain of people with depression for 100 years. The social psych folk have been studying persuasion for 100 years. All I do is marry these two. It's not that hard. People just had to think and want to do this. We got a great quote from Beck. Even though situations may be favorable and indeed may temporarily reduce dysphoria and introduce some satisfaction, the overall set of futility persists. I know what you're thinking, I'm still being negative. I'm not, because I was working with Andrew Thompson, an amazing graduate student. He left here with 9 publications and became a tennis coach at Middlebury College. Gene and I, we got him a big trophy that said world's most published tennis coach. He is, I'm pretty sure. So he and I were sitting at the coffee shop, is where you'll always find me if I'm not like here. And we're reading this quote, and I'm like, Andrew, is Becky, which is what we call Beck because we're friends with him, is Becky saying that we could push back the depressive schema? That's how I read this. I read this as, we can create situations that could temporarily reduce dysphoria. And I said, well, crap, why don't we do that? And it was, well, okay, but what's that gonna do? And I've been working in organ donation at the time. A lot of stuff with organ donation. Organ donation is something a lot of people want to do, but it's never important to them. So what we learned is if you want to get people to sign up, hand them the form right then and there. I can get people wanting to donate, but if I do it in a TV ad, by the time you get to the DMV 6 months from now, effect gone. So I said, wait a minute. Maybe all we need is a temporary window. What if we create a temporary window, push back the schema, and then right then and there, hand someone a way to seek help? We don't need permanent change. I need 3 minutes of change. I just need that window. And we thought, crap, this should work. This isn't hard. People have phones. We get an ad. You give them a way to seek help. And then we thought, how the heck are we pushing back that schema? Like, oh, crap. Fortunately, I was hanging out a lot with Gene and Andrew at the time. Positive Emotions. We know what they can do. We know they give people a burst. We know it increases cognitive flexibility, future-oriented thinking, diverse information, more frequent approach behaviors, like help-seeking. I don't know, what if we shoot up people with depression with positive emotions and see what happens? We had nothing else going on that day, so we went at it. So here's what we did. Here's the first study, Journal of Pos Psych. I don't know, I was younger when we put it out. Okay, elevation. This is something that Andrew Thompson had a love for. He thought was an incredible emotion. This is the emotion you feel when you witness someone else do something good for someone else. It gives you more favorable views of humanity, feelings of warmth, increased pro-social behavior. I'm like, what if we shoot someone up with this? And I talk loud so people at the coffee shop were very much worried about what we were talking about. But nonetheless, I thought, well, if elevation leads to more favor, if you think people are nicer and kinder and you have more approach, you should be wanting to seek help. And again, not permanent change. I am not saying a 1-minute writing task or video or thought task is gonna do what a year or 3 or 5 of therapy could do. We just wanted this little window. But it's like, can we actually get people with depression elevated? I don't know, we tried. So he said, think of a time you witnessed someone do something extremely moral for someone else. Now, one thing in the study is we said, well, we really thought elevation had a specific cue that would make it work. But we wanted a comparison emotion. So I thought back to the study I just talked to you about with Amanda, where the betrayal happened, and we said, what about gratitude? I know people think writing in a gratitude journal could help, and it probably can, unless you're depressed, where at the end of the day when you try to write in that gratitude journal and you think there's nothing to be grateful for, then you think you're a terrible person. Then it's not so good. But we thought maybe it could work too. Same thing. Tell us about an occurrence in life where you felt grateful. We also had other conditions. We gave them a story about a nurse at the hospital who witnessed someone be a living donor for a friend. You see, the donor stuff doesn't go away. And we told that story. These 2 people were friends. What person 1 gave a live donor to person 2. For the manipulation, elevation, imagine you were the nurse that saw this. Gratitude, imagine you were the person who received it. Same story. Yeah, I love that method. I thought it was beautiful. Okay, so we did the study. We were absolutely able to infuse both emotions. No problem. People got shot up with both emotion without any problem, and I'll tell you now, nostalgia, savoring, awe, hope, arousal, they're all inducible in people with depression. We pulled them all off. But the elevation story worked beautifully. We changed help-seeking intentions for a whole heap of sources. Remember all that negativity? Remember all those ads that were backfiring all over the place? We kicked them in the head and pulled it off, just asking people to think about a time they saw someone do something great for someone else. That was it. It worked for the story. It worked for the recall. Gratitude, It did not work, and it even backfired one time. Why? They felt guilty that someone did something for them because they didn't deserve it. This is why we're so careful in our papers. We're not like go start trying every emotion. It's think about the ones that are unlikely to backfire and start testing every possible emotion. So this is where we are to start off with. Elevation and gratitude, infused yes, increased help seeking, elevation yes, gratitude no. Later on, I'm going to tell you about a time where we would take these emotional inductions and put them before help-seeking messages. It worked for some, it didn't work for others. So we did this study, we're psyched, we can improve people with depression. Along comes Tasha, now at the Government Accountability Office, and she basically started talking about wanting to do different things. So, we basically did this study. People were savoring. Write about a positive event that occurred in the past week with as much detail as possible, or write about a typical day. What happened? That happened. Significant differences. We were able to increase help-seeking attitudes and intentions by asking people to savor on a positive event. Now, we thought it would work through perceived behavioral control. We were dead wrong. We tried 4 different efficacy measures. Oh, it must be the measure, it must be the measure. 4 of them, none even whispered anything close. It all went through positive emotion, worked beautifully, we're rocking along. So now, elevation works, gratitude doesn't, savoring does. We're thinking we got something here, and then Tasha, who's extremely bright, she says, I think if it's a high arousal savoring, it's going to be more effective. Because we're then going to induce arousal, approach behaviors, get people moving, get them talking. We did a bunch of different studies to test it. We said savor an exciting memory or savor a calm memory. Exciting memory worked. When they savored something exciting, it worked beautifully. But only the exciting memory increased help-seeking intentions. So what do we got now for the detectives in the audience? Elevation, gratitude, and savoring all could be induced. Elevation and high arousal savoring are the only ones that increase help-seeking. So we're thinking about how this works. We're loving the savoring thing. We're thinking, wouldn't it be great? Because how you can do writing tasks like with media? Everyone take out a pen, put your phone down while driving and start writing. So we knew we weren't going to do that. So we thought, what if we create ads where we ask them to savor, then we ask them to seek help. So we did it. We published it. It didn't work at all. I'm thrilled we got to publish it, but we're like, hey, this doesn't work. And they're like, okay, we'll still publish it. It didn't do anything. No effectiveness. So now the mystery continues. We know high arousal works, but it does not maximize the help-seeking ad. But you might see that little yes also popped up. Around the same time, we showed people an elevating video. Then we showed them a help-seeking ad. That worked. So when the elevation went first, the video got maximized. When we combined it, the help, the savoring one were together. Let's savor, and now let's think about help seeking. It didn't work. We thought it might be the combination. We thought it might have to be separated. Who knows? Then comes Savannah Carpenter. There is something called affective forecasting. Some of you may know this. This is the way when we think about our future, we tend to go once I, become a full prof, I'll be able to relax. All those lies we tell ourselves. That's affective forecasting. So Savannah thought, well, I know this is bad because it gets people to gamble away their fortunes and stuff. She goes, what if we use it for good? What if we get people with depression to affectively forecast, get all this happiness in them, which really probably won't come true in 10 years, but it may get them to seek help. And I thought, okay, let's do it. We asked people to think about their ideal future. We asked them to think about the most ideal event occurring. We asked them to write down how it would feel, how their life would be different, how amazing their life would be. The way we did this, I don't know if anyone's seen Death Note, but it was, imagine there's a notebook that if you open up and anything you write comes true. So it wasn't kill people, but it was still Death Note. I was very proud to bring it in there. Okay, so did this work? Yeah. Current feelings, more positive. Future feelings, more positive. Intensity of positive feelings, more positive. It didn't move help seeking. Absolutely nothing. The mystery continues. Worked for elevation, worked for savoring, didn't work for effective forecasting. But a new hope. One of my students said, what if we try hope? Not the cognitive aspect of it, but the emotion. I remember I saw Jean in the hallway, and I'm like, Jean, is hope an emotion? Can I use it? She's like, I just taught a whole class on how it's a cognition. And she just continued walking down the hallway. I'm like, oh shit. She was on this committee though. So what CTAL said is, why don't we induce people with depression with hope? Sounds no more ridiculous than everything else we're inducing them with. So I said, first, as we always do, you can tell there's a method to the madness. See if you could induce it. We ran some pilot tests. We pulled it off. We did an autobiographical writing test. Talk about times of hope. Significantly better than the control. We showed them a dog video. We did a lot of piloting. You want to persuade people with depression, put a puppy or dog in it. We're pretty sure it's because they don't engage in social comparison. So people with depression, when they see someone else succeed, and this is something we know in ads, don't have ads that are like, well, I was depressed and I made it, so can you. The depressed person's like, I'm a failure, I can't make it. So we're like, please stop doing that. So we used dogs, and it worked. We also did a reflective writing test where we told them a story. Didn't work. And if you look at the Cohen's D of 0.61 and 0.51, we're inducing hope in people with depression. Heck yeah, I'm very happy with those. So significant, significant, not happening. Okay. So then we did the actual study. We did the pilot first. We didn't want to spend all the money on all those videos. We couldn't afford it. So then we broke it down. We got rid of the reflective task. They worked again with hopeful feelings. We're going for mediation. Get ready. Looks like the Millennium Falcon. That's not accidental. But basically, being exposed to the hope ad or doing the writing task increased helpful feelings, led to help-seeking attitudes, help-seeking intentions, and ultimately actual behavior. We asked people if they wanted information to click if they wanted it sent. It's not the ideal behavior, but it's a behavior, and it worked. It was fabulous, and in case you want to see, there we go. So, ignore the dogs. So stuff worked, we were happy. We then said, can it amplify an ad? Can we take that hope video, pop it in front of a depression ad and have it work? So just so you could see, we did another pilot test. This is what the videos looked like. This was the first one. This is a dog that has no arms and could walk like a rabbit. And this is, where's Sean? This is like a surfing therapy dog. It surfs and does therapy. It uses AI a little bit. So this was the video that we tested. Once again, the dog video worked here. We also had a video about a deaf singer. Didn't work. We had a motivational speech that I thought was going to be, you can do it. Miserable. Miserable. Stick with the animals. And there you see the control. So what do? We wanted to see if everything worked. What happened? Just about everything worked. So this was weird. So what you're seeing there, I know you're seeing a lot of green and that's happy for help-seeking attitudes, but basically the help-seeking ad alone, it worked. The dog video alone, it worked. And that is not a bad thing. We were very, very happy with this. But the combination was no better. So it's a mixed bag. I mean, we basically figured out you could just show someone a dog ad and actually increase help-seeking attitudes. You could show them a dog ad and increase intentions. It just didn't amplify it the way that we hoped it would. Okay, so there was the path analysis. Let's look at the rundown so far. Everything's been induced. We have yet to do a study with people with depression that we could not induce a favorable emotion in them. This was the biggest hiccup to start with. But elevation, high arousal, savoring, and hope all increase help-seeking. The only thing that amplified an ad was elevation. Don't worry, there's more. Zach came along and he wanted to do arousal and awe. He was going to start with the A's and go all the way through the alphabet. He'll be here for a bit. So by now, you know our study design. Can arousal be induced? Can awe be induced? The arousal video was someone kayaking. No words, just audio. Well, someone kayaking and you got the audio for it. The awe, pictures of mountains and all that happy stuff. We always find stimuli for the grad students in the room that have been used before. You still need to pilot them. But if you start a paper and like we use the same stimuli as Johnson & Johnson, your reviewer calms down a little bit. So we show them the kayaking ad, we show them the awe ad. Did it work? Oh heck yeah. Awe and arousal, we shot it up without a problem. Really nice effect sizes. Okay, now the next study, we show them those same videos, we asked them if they wanted to seek help, absolute failure. Neither one did anything. But then we put it in front of an ad. We put it in front of an ad, and what happened? It worked for all. It worked for all. Putting an awe video of mountaintops and all that stuff in front of a help-seeking message made the message stronger. We don't have to remake ads. We just got to put happy stuff in front of it. I mean, awe, apparently, in front of it. So, let me give you the rundown now, and then you're all going to work. Okay. Can we induce just about everything? Yes, and there was one more study. We didn't do it from someone else's lab. We'll just bring it in. Nostalgia. Every one of these got induced. And if you're thinking, well, savoring is an emotion, all of those like affective forecasting, nostalgia, all looked at positive affect. All got moved. Which increased help-seeking, elevation, savoring, and hope. Why those three? Why not awe and nostalgia? No. Why not affective forecasting? Beats me. And which of these maximize the ads? Elevation, savoring, and awe. That's where we are. So, beyond doubt, we are fully confident we can induce people with depression with positive emotions. This is counterintuitive. I don't think it's the first way you would think to go about helping people with depression. The bottom line is you can push back that schema. It's not permanent. I think we have 3 to 5 minutes. But you can absolutely push it back. But not every emotion is going to lead to an automatic boost in help-seeking. Elevation, yep. Savoring, yep. Hope. And then elevation, savoring, and awe are able to maximize messages. So in a lot of ways, this is exciting. Elevation works like gangbusters. We figured out a way to elevate people with depression and maximize help-seeking ads. Elevation does it, savoring can do it. Awe doesn't move help-seeking, but when it comes before an ad, it amplifies it. So here is my question, and I'll leave this one up. Why? Like, if you ask me, where's our research stream going? What are we doing next? We are literally going to sit around and try to figure out this pattern. I mean, sure, we are doing some interventions right now. feel fortunate. We're working with the military. We're doing a 1-hour intervention, and we're starting it off with a savoring activity. It ends with an elevation video. We found a great video of like a 98-year-old veteran, and all the troops come and sing to him on his front lawn and stuff. He doesn't tell him to get off his lawn, which is, I thought, where it was going. I thought it would be much funnier, but it worked out well. So we are using these things. They are getting implemented to get people with depression to seek help. But boy, would it be great if I could figure out why this pattern is coming out this way. Why is it this easy to induce all these emotions, but only some of them directly increase help-seeking? And just to be clear, we never mention help-seeking. Not in the first 2 columns. It's never mentioned. We just ask them about it. But we just ask them to tell us about a time they saw someone do good for something else. We ask them to savor a positive experience. That's all we do. Show them a video of awe. We don't mention help-seeking, but it still pops it. Why? We're pushing back the schema. We're broadening them. We're inducing them with positive emotions. And we are changing the way they perceive things for just a few minutes. You throw the help-seeking mechanism right there, you now have someone who sought help who wouldn't have done it otherwise. So now I ask you, audience, positive psych students, what is going on, or what emotions do we think we're missing?
Do you think it has to do with nervous system regulation? Like awe has that ability to calm you and excite you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like that nervous system regulation and elevation and savoring kind of, get you down into a state where when you're in that state, then you're more receptive to help.
Certainly possible. I mean, when I say we don't know, this is not like I know the answer and I'm going to you're not getting an answer today. Sorry, I have no idea. That could be it. Do you think if that were true, what emotions do you think would fall in the same category? Are there others? Because that would be a kick-ass paper to be like, hey, we think it's this and we're going to test it.
Yeah, I mean, I know awe sits very high in that, and then also, thinking of...
We took all the good ones?
Yeah. Well, love. I mean, love also has that, and, thinking of your immune system and how awe affects your immune system, and, and if that has correlation, because, I think it was Sonia who was saying that love also has that same ability with your immune system. So I don't know, maybe there's
love is good. Love might work. I could call Seda. Like, Seda, show me love. Okay, wow, hope is like a wave. No, thank you. We generally need to figure this out because we want to replicate this, and I'm not as comfortable, even though elevation works, if I don't understand it. That makes me nervous. What do we got?
How about the element of rapport with the person that is interacting with you? Is that making any difference?
Oh, it's all online. So all these studies are fully online.
So would it make a difference if it is in person?
It might. It certainly might. The trouble is expense. Like, I would love to, just to give a sense for any of the donors in the room, organ or otherwise, I will do both. We do, CGU has a lot, as we know, we don't have undergrads. Excellent for educating incredible students, terrible for collecting data. So what we do is we use Prolific and Cloud Connect. We have to collect 100 people to get 10. Because we need people who are depressed and not currently seeking help. Because if they're currently seeking help and we say, what's your intention to seek help? I don't even know what that answer would be. So the struggle is that we've got to do it online, otherwise, because we collect 6,000 people a study. 6,000 people. So I would love to do it in person. We just don't have
That
that.
really is not answering the real question. It's just that the means that you're using is less juicy than than one face to face.
Could be. No, if we could face, but still, I think the way to look at it is, I fully agree with you, face to face would be great. But even in the online, we're getting differences between emotion.
Because you're looking at the dog, and the dog is a mammal. It affects your emotion, even the person is seeing it. But we're just crossing that whole effect of the emotion of another person to the depressed person. That's big chunk of the...
Okay, so if we could do it in person, it will be great. I don't disagree. I think if these could be in person, they would be fabulous. The challenge is, if you get someone to go down to this, you've almost accomplished half the challenge, which is great, though. I mean, I would love to do people in person.
We were with Sonia yesterday talking about like connection, and one thing with connection is vulnerability. Is the elevation strategy, the savoring strategy, and the hope strategy less vulnerable for the person with depression? That it's easier for them to go that direction, because when you're depressed, you're not vulnerable. Like you're trying to push things away. And so elevation, savoring, and hope are not like, well, this is what is good. It's, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in thinking that it's less vulnerable, so then therefore it works for someone with depression.
No, I got the pen so I could write it down. And the love, wrote them both. You can't read it because it's my writing. No, I think that's very interesting. Because the elevation, the one thing that, in addition to shooting people up with positive emotions, we also script messages for people with depression. The most effective way to get someone with depression to seek help with an ad is not to make it towards them. So don't say, are you depressed? Say, do you know someone experiencing depression? It gets right around that depressogenic schema. We've taken actual existing anti-stigma ads and help seeking, and we just flip them and make them overheard. They work better. That's all it takes. So I think you're right. I think it's very likely that these emotions get them more outer, and the other emotions are more inner. And I see that with the vulnerability, that if you're thinking about a time someone else did something good, you're not judging yourself. You go to gratitude, now we have a problem. That's a great idea. No, thank you. Let's keep going around. My students are going to hate this. They have so much work tomorrow. Yes.
So I'm thinking, oh gosh, and I hope it doesn't immediately leave my brain. There's a certain, with depression, there's a certain, it sounds counterintuitive, but there's a certain comfort in the negative feelings, the negative thoughts. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if the emotions that are more effective kind of are ones that draw attention or make that less comfortable. Because even though you can't permanently disrupt the emotions or evoke more positive outlook, you're making that negative mindset less of a comfort zone. So that could, because in my, and I'm talking about personal experience.
No.
That was the biggest barrier I had for help seeking, was just, I got so comfortable in the negativity that it was, I don't know what it's going to look like to not be here anymore, to not be depressed.
No, can I tell you, I was taking an abnormal psych class as a undergrad in Brooklyn College. And I asked the teacher, from my own experience, aren't there people who just almost enjoy that negativity once they're there? He's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And I said, okay, and I went on my day. Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think that might disrupt that a little bit. And that could get at the vulnerability. I think we're all getting at kind of the same thing. Okay, I was told one more question, and Hannah is tenured, right? Former CGU student who we love dearly.
So I was wondering if, just kind of looking at some of the connections between elevation, hope, and awe, that made me think of self-transcendence and some of the work done by Keltner's lab up and through the Very Good Science Center, and the brain regions involved, right, with awe. So the brain regions that are involved are more outside of the self, right? Mm-hmm. So, but when it's like neutral, or when you're looking at something like funny, we think about ourselves and our own experience. So I'm kind of just thinking about some of those, because just looking at those three emotions, I'm wondering if there are any connections between those parts of the brain being activated in terms of just thinking outside of the internal experience.
No, I think that and the vulnerability, I think this is, to me, these are all similar idea that you've got to get outside the person with depression. Or the person with depression has to get out of their own head a little bit. And that these emotions, no, elevation and awe, I know they're very similar in this. So I do think that if you get someone with depression outside their brain, less vulnerability, looking at it less self-relevant, we might be somewhere, and I still think love is in there as well. Okay, guys, thank you. I have work to do. I really appreciate the feedback. This was a genuine, I need to know, and now I have research for the next year. Thank you all greatly.